Sir, please, Rogan sir.
Thank
It's
you, madam.
over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Just share the screen. You are able to see, madam? You are able to
Yes.
see this?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Seema Ghosh. I thank Dr. J.R. Kayal and NIT Agartala for inviting me to this workshop. So I think for the last 3 days, I have also been looking, looking at these videos. Okay, in YouTube. I think we had wonderful lectures, covering all aspects of seismology, like hazard, then economic losses, receiver functions. I think earthquake clusters, 2011 Tohoku earthquake. So many interesting lectures was there, and today my lecture I will be focusing on the development of the PSHA map of India. And of course my lecture is little bit, my life is simple because the Russian professors, I think on day 2 they have already introduced you this subject of probabilistic seismic hazard analysis, where they discussed about IAEA guidelines, for the nuclear reactors. So the methodology is more or less the same, which we have adopted for our to develop our seismic hazard for our India. So now in our India, we have been using this seismic hazard map, which is quite old and which was developed just based on the past damages. It was not done as per, the probabilistic or deterministic analysis. So all the earthquake engineering experts working in the country said they felt that, this map has to be revised based on the probabilistic the principles. So there was a project in 2011, which was concluded in 2011 for about 3 years. So these are the committee of experts, like we have from geophysics, seismology, then geologists, then practicing engineers, geotechnical engineers, then insurance companies and others. So this report was brought out in 2011, and this project was given to us, and I was a the project investigator along with a CRC. So this report was brought out in 2011. So this is the existing seismic zone map. You can see on the my left side. So India has divided it into some 4 zones, which is and then they give the PGA levels, 0.1, 0.16, 0.24, and 0.36 G is the highest in the country. So now, so this map is just based on the past damages only. And now this map, which is on the right hand side, is a PGA contours, which we developed in 2011 for using PSHA at 2,475 written period, and this is valid for A-type site. So although this map was accepted by the Bureau of Indian Standards, but there was some issues like we should be able to give it on B-type site, and then this Indo-Gangetic basin, how do we address this? And then there are so many issues were there from the practicing engineers point of view. So last year, once again, committee was formed, and then this project was awarded to us to develop this, to upgrade this seismic hazard map. So I will not go into all the past literature. So like before 2011, say, all the literature review, like what are the important aspects in hazard and who has done all this work was documented in the India report, which is available online. So now from 2011, if I see in the last 10 years, there has been a lot of advancements in India. The one is this PESMO strong motion database. This was developed by IIT Roorkee. So we got a lot of strong motion recordings in the last 10 years. Even the Nepal earthquake, that we have a new CIGN network in the Indo-Ganga basin. So this Nepal earthquake was also very well recorded, and its aftershocks itself. Then this ISC GEM catalog came into picture. Then many papers have been published in the last 10 years by many agencies, by many professors, institutes, and independent researchers also are there. Then there are several reports have been released by nuclear agencies, ministries, GEM reports are there, many consultancy reports are there, and there has been several GMPs, hazard maps, source zones, catalogs, are available. In the last 10 years, there has been a huge advancement in this seismic hazard in India. So now to develop this hazard map for our the Indian building code, so this methodology was drafted by the committee of almost some 20 to 30 experts was there, comprising of geologists, then geophysics, then seismologists are there, then we have insurance companies, the practicing engineers, from private as well as governmental things, and many the professors are there. So the methodology was like, you see, we have to do this hazard computation at 0.1 degree by 0.1 degree grid, almost a 10 kilometer by 10 kilometer grid in India. And then to estimate hazards, they say that minimum 500 kilometer has to be used to compute hazard at each sample point. Then when it comes to the earthquake catalog, say, so the committee felt that after reviewing all the several works, so magnitude greater than 4 can be taken as a threshold thing, and to compute these recurrence parameters. And to develop these catalogs, say IMD has their own historical catalog, then USGS, IACGEM. Then there are several published papers are there on earthquake catalogs, and neighboring countries. Recently, our Nepal, Thailand, they also have done the seismic hazard maps itself. So they also have developed their own catalog. So all this information should be compiled to develop a catalog for our country, and which can be used for recurrence relations. Now, to do this catalog completeness, we know there are so many uncertainties are there. So one should use this steps method. Then visual things has to be used. And then regarding maximum magnitude, this is a very, very tricky thing to estimate because it's an extrapolation. So we have several methods are there, and we can get different values from variety of methods. So the committee, after doing a lot of review, so you can do those things also, but the observed max in each zone should be taken as observed value plus 0.5. And then to do this AB values, they said we should use this Kijiko's the recent papers, the statistical papers. And then there is also one more Wechert method, okay, which is more or less on the completeness thing. There is a little bit difference between these two approaches. So these two methods we should use to estimate these recurrence relations. And coming to the faults, the only those identified by official agencies like GSI, IMD, NGRI should be used in our analysis. And then there is recently Hima-Tibet map came into picture, which shows active faults in the Tibetan and Himalayan region. So these agencies' faults should be used in calculating our hazard. And then previously we divided the whole our India into 32 broad seismic zones. So now a new source zone has been added in the Tibet region, because committee felt that earthquakes in that region also can cause some damage in ground motion in the Himalayas, that portion. So a new zone has been added. And then previously the old method was based on the faults, but the committee says that you have to do background seismicity models, because many countries are adopting, and there are a lot of papers on the background seismicity. So one is this elliptical smoothing, then circular smoothing, so these things have to be also should be used to compute the hazard maps. And so this is what the circular smoothing, so we count the number of earthquakes and then smoothen around a circle. Then this elliptical smoothing, so we combine the fault information with this background seismicity, and then using the fault's strike angle and the length and width, so we smoothen it around an ellipse around this faults itself. So this is just the methodology which is available internationally. So circular smoothing is a very popular thing, widely used in USGS and many countries. Then this elliptical smoothing is now becoming popular. So which combines both the circular smoothing as well as the fault. So we should get the results from all these approaches. And then coming to the GMPs, which we use in hazard analysis. Now in the older days, we don't have much data in India. So it was based on, the stochastic seismological models, even in Himalayas also. But now, as already I mentioned, in the last 10 years, we have Cosmos, PESMOS, then IMD data, then CIGN. A huge network installed by NGRI group. So many data sets have come. So many people have published this ground motion prediction equations based on the strong motion data. So the committee, our Indian building committee, felt that our GMPs in Himalayas, IGP in Northeast India should be based on this strong motion data based. So, and then when it comes to peninsular India, central India, Gujarat, still our data is not complete. We don't have good quality, the complete data to establish these GMPs. So the committee felt that we can go ahead with the stochastic seismological models, or like in NGA East, say they are using these hybrid methods, like you take data of active regions and then use some correction factors, and then come up with like this host to target approach itself. So then committee also felt this, you should use multiple GMPs, the epistemic uncertainty. So you have to do a logic tree, and then you should get for each branch, say you have to calculate all these numbers. So the methodology was framed by our the expert committee. So now using this methodology, say, so we should get these results. So this is a fault map of India. I think tomorrow, I think Dr. Sujit Das Gupta, GSI, he is going to show you. So this is a fault map given by Geological, the Survey of India. So this we have included the faults even in the Tibetan this region itself. So just we broadly divided them into 30 broad, the source zones. So now coming to the seismicity, so all the historical events, everything has been documented in my previous NDMA report, and that earthquake catalog is available, online. Anybody can download that one. So now the committee felt that we have to include the ISC GEM because they have revised the epicenters and magnitude calculations. So to compare with those catalog also, then IMD has their own catalog, Indian Meteorological Department, then USGS BRC, our atomic group also runs some, micro earthquake surveys, they also give epicenters, and then NCS has come, then Nepal, our neighboring countries, then several papers and reports. So combining all these events and removing duplicates and others, so total around 68,000 earthquakes have been collected, for our entire this broad, the rectangular region, to estimate our hazard analysis. So if we see the number of earthquakes which are greater than 8, it turns out to be some 26 events. So now, to decluster the things, previously in India, there are several techniques are there. We don't have any calibrations like, how many aftershocks have to be removed, what should be the criteria. But now recent Nepal earthquake, it has all the aftershocks have been documented. So now we can do all these type of studies actually, like, Gardner-Knopf algorithm, Reisenberg algorithm, all algorithms we can test for this Nepal thing, and then we can calibrate these things for our earthquakes also. So based on this, we have developed, the declustering procedure as per this Gardner-Knopf Woodhammer's, this approach itself, and we removed all the aftershocks to estimate the recurrence relations. And completeness, as already I mentioned, the steps method, the visual methods have to be used. I am just showing for the All India catalog. So this has been done for all the individual source zones, at the local level also. So our catalog turns out to be something, it is complete for last, the 59 years, and for large magnitudes, some 200 years, the catalog shows the completeness. So this is how the temporal distribution. So the main historical earthquake is this, the one earthquake which occurred in Gujarat in 2000, some 500 BC itself. So we have collected all the historical things and we have merged with this instrumental data. So now this is also one more method, that is a visual screening. They say you have to plot the cumulative number of events and where the slope changes, that itself is taken as a completeness. So we estimate from all the approaches which are available in the literature. So then once the completeness has been done, now the recurrence becomes this one. So we estimated from Kijiko's method where you come, the complete data, extreme data, you can incorporate all these completeness intervals and you can get these AB values and then this maximum magnitudes also. But as already I mentioned you, the Mmax, it is a very, very tricky thing. So to estimate Mmax, say, so we can estimate, there are several procedures are there because it is an extrapolation in statistics. Then we also did, the committee also suggested that, the Mmax should not be more than Mmax observed plus 0.5. So after doing all the studies, after discussion with, the NGRI and the Ministry of MOES and other scientists, so this has been arrived at the Mmax also. So now, as already I mentioned you, so we also do Kijiko's method is widely popular. Then there is one more Wishart method. So some people felt that the Kijiko's method, because it's very highly sensitive to the input starting values, so this also should be used in the calculation. So this method also we have obtained our recurrence relations. Now, so these are for all the source zones, so the p value, the lambda, then the maximum potential magnitude, and so we have reported here. And these are the old, the NDMA values in 2010, the old values, and these are the new values by including the recent, the 10 years data itself. Now, similarly, we have done from Kijiko's as well as from Wishart method, both the methods. There is a slight difference. In Kijiko's extreme things, we assume Gumbel distribution, but Wishart uses the same truncated exponential distribution. So these are the B values, we have obtained from both the approaches. And we have also obtained their uncertainties, like their standard deviations of the B value, then the lambdas, and its uncertainty also. So whichever source zone contains a very less data, obviously the standard deviation of B values will be very high. So then coming to the source models to do in hazard analysis. So there we followed three approaches. One is a fault-based approach, which was in the old report, this one. So the committee felt that, you should explore alternate things also. So we have done based on, as already mentioned, the seismicity-based approaches. One is circular smoothing, then elliptical smoothing. So we obtained hazard maps from all these approaches also. So this is a background seismicity model I am showing you using circular smoothened seismicity. So here you divide the whole region into some grids kind of a thing, and then you count the number of earthquakes, and then you smoothen it actually. Okay, so we have a correlation distance, So we have taken this as the 50 kilometers. So these are the contours obtained for circular smoothened seismicity. Now, similarly, we also did this elliptical smoothing because it combines, you see, the seismicity with the faults itself. So here, instead of doing in a circle, say, so you have to do around the faults itself. So we have established all these things from the focal mechanism, solutions, and others. So we have given weightages for variety of the faultings, the thrust fault, strike slip faults, and other things also. And so these are the contours of the seismicity obtained from this elliptical smoothing. So now when it comes to GMPs, so the whole of our India is a very complex, geologically we have several things are there. So we divided the country into some, 3 or 4 zones, see, for estimating this GMP relations. So we have the Himalayas, then we have the Indo-Ganga basin, then we have central India, then we have peninsular India, then Kutch region, okay, so which behaves in a different fashion. So Gujarat we have, then of course northeast itself we have the subduction zones, then we have this Andaman region. So we divided this into several groups to for estimating our GMP relations. So now this is a data which is available in the last 10 years, and of course we had data previously also, but in the last 10 years there has been a significant the improvement. So you can see these blue ones are all the Indo-Ganga basin stations. Some of them were maintained by IIT Roorkee. Now NGRI is maintaining all these the stations in the Indo-Ganga basin. Then in Himalayas also NGRI has a network. Even IIT Roorkee has a network here, and in Northeast also there are several stations are available. So now using this data sets, we can develop GMPs also, or international GMPs which are of similar tectonic background we can take, and then we can even give a weightage, and we can do all the residuals, all other analysis itself. So this is how the magnitude distribution, it looks like the data, for our India, like Himalayas, IGP, then Northeast India. But when it comes to shield region, we don't have much data, only just some data sets like Gujarat earthquake, some far away broadband stations are there, then Koina, only few events are there. It is not that complete. So now using this data, so what we did was, because we have to do a logic tree kind of approach, multiple GMPs have to be used. So these GMPs should be come from a similar tectonic background. So I'm just showing here for the Himalayas and then this Indo-Ganga basin. So we have adopted like NGA West 2 equations here. So Atkinson, then Boers, Campbell's, and then these equations have been there. And then we have our own equations also. One has been developed by ID Gupta, Trifunax, one equation. Then we have my own equation which we developed from this data set itself. So we calculated all the residuals by comparing with the data, like log observed data minus log predicted value from the GMPs. And now, so this is for the Northeast India also. So we have taken some, the equations from abroad, similar tectonic regions, and then we have calculated all the residuals also. So like now to find the weightages for all these equations. So there are several approaches are there, likelihood method, then log likelihood, Euclidean distance method. So we did all these type of the statistical analysis to find out weightages for this GMPs. And now we computed log likelihood, modified Euclidean distance. So I am showing you the references also. So by all the approaches, we got all these numbers. And finally, I'm just showing you some comparisons, like, how these international equations, when you want to try to compare with the data, say, like Uttarkashi, I'm showing here, then for the Nepal aftershocks and Nepal main events. So you can see for the Nepal main events, so this is a recorded data, it's a black line. And this is the one which has been developed by NGRI group, okay, which was published in the BSSA. So international equations say, so here, they are unable to predict, you said, far away distances itself. So like this, so we computed for, variety of, the conditions, and we did likelihood, residuals, and all those things we have done. And finally, you see, we computed like likelihood, then the ranking of this GMPs when you compare with the data, and then log likelihood and Euclidean distance. And recently there is a publication where they say, based on all the three, you should rank the GMPs, and we can find out the weights itself. So you can see in the Himalayan region set. So these are the weights, and this is a 0.242. So this is the equation which is locally developed with the data, that Gupta and Trifunax equation. And this is our own equation is there 0.188. And similarly, we have obtained all the weights for other international similar tectonic things. Now, when it comes to IGP, say, so here also we have these weightages, 0.227291 we have obtained. The Northeast India also. So these are the equations: Jao, Kano, Youngs, and Atkins and Bohr. So we have obtained the weights for all these GMPs. So this is our logic tree. So our logic tree, you see, we are doing from elliptical smoothing, we are doing from fault based, we are also doing from the circular smoothing, and then we are also have for each methodology, say, then we have recurrence parameters estimated from this Kijiko, then we have from Wichart's method, and then in each region, say, we have these GMPs, and these are the weightages. So like this, we did for Himalayas, then Indo-Ganga basin, then we have stable continental region, then we have for the subduction region also. Now, when it comes to stable continental regions, recently NGA East, that report released by, it was released in Peer Berkeley, that available online. So they have given some 17 GMPs. These are all, estimated from the stochastic seismological models. So this also we have used all the GMPs. Then we have our own, the hybrid method, as already I mentioned you, the Campbell's that host to target regions, the kind of correction factors we use. And then one more Atkins and Bohr 2006, one more equation was there for the stable continental. So all these equations have been used with appropriate weightages. So these weightages have been estimated from our ranking of this GMPs. So now once we do GMPs, once we have the recurrence relations, once we have the background seismicity, all these things, so now we proceed to develop our hazard curves. So as already I mentioned you, so here we did with several methods: fault based, then circular, then elliptical, then there are kernel estimation method, what the zoneless method, which was also available, and GMPs. So we have a combination like strong motion data in Himalayas, IGP, then synthetic data in the central India, then we have the hybrid methods for peninsular India. So all combinations, you see, we tried. Now, when it comes to the hazard methodologies, there are basically several approaches are there. One is the classical Cornell's, that the famous equation. Then one can also do from Monte Carlo simulation, like we generate synthetic catalogs, and then we can obtain here also. We can also get from physics based also. Now the mechanics is very well established, and we can use the split modeling techniques to also estimate this hazard curves. So right now we followed this Cornell methodology. We also got results from Monte Carlo simulation. Now this physics based things, it is still under it is under progress itself. So now I am just showing you the contour maps for 475 years, 2475 years from fault based approaches. So fault based, if I use how that is a linear, we assume the sources as a linear sources. So what will be the PGAs? So you can see 475, 2500 years, say. So that is a 10% and 2% probability in 50 years. So fault based approach gives you very low values when you compare with other things. Now similarly we do for PGA, then 0.2 seconds, long period, short period, at all the natural time periods we have obtained these values. And this is now the background seismicity models using circular smoothing. Now, when you do the circular smoothing method, the thing what we observe is, the values are, extremely, they are on the higher side. So like in the Himalayas, we get, for 2500 year, 1.1 G, very high values comes into picture. The fault-based methods, they give very low values because maybe, the linear sources which we are using. And then when I do this, so we estimated from all the methods. So this is the contours for 0.2 second, that is a long period coefficient. So similarly, we have for short period coefficient. Similarly, we have for long period coefficient also. So then, so then in our building committees, what they said was, this time in our code, we will give the values for 73 year, 475, 2475, 5000 years, and even for 10,000 years also. And we also should give you the median, then 84 percentile, then the 95 percentile also. because now in our India, for tall buildings, many important tall buildings and power plants, people are trying to do this performance-based seismic design. So if you want to do this performance-based seismic design, say, you should have report, all these numbers, and even we should have this PGV, that's the P ground velocity, then the P ground displacement is a very important thing for serviceability checks in our structures itself. So all these things, we are going to report in our the new building code. So I'm showing you the elliptical smoothing. So now the committee felt that elliptical smoothing values, they lie in between circular smoothing and the fault based. It is something like, in between these two. So the committee, whatever, the consensus was, we will go ahead with this elliptical smoothing itself. So I'm showing you the 73-year written period. So these are 50 percentile maps. And similarly 475 to 475, so these values lies in between circular method and this the fault based methods. So you can see in Himalayas, for 2475 is a 0.65, and if you come to Agartala, it is almost 0.7 or 0.8 or that type of high values are observed for 50 percentiles. And these are valid at B-type rock itself. So similarly, 5,000 years, then 10,000 years. Obviously, 10,000 years will be extremely high. So this information is required for the power plant important structures. 5,000 years is widely used for LNG. Okay, the ASC code, it recommends you have to use this 5,000 year written period also. And if somebody wants to do performance-based designs, all these numbers are required for a practicing engineer. So now these are the 95 percentile. Obviously 95 percentile will be extremely high, because it is a mu plus 1.65 times sigma. So you can see the values are very high. So similar results are there, like 2475, 5,000 years, then 10,000 years. We have this 95 percentile maps also. So now here the most important thing is the Koyna region in South India. So this is it is like we get high values in the peninsular India in this small zone. Other side is the values are on the lower side only. Now this is for 0.2 second, that is a short period coefficient. So similarly 475 to 475. So here also we have 50 percentile, we have 84 percentile, and then we also have this 95 percentile also. So this is for variety of written periods I'm showing. So now when we did this work, say, so the committee what felt was we have to report the uncertainty or the sensitivity of our parameters, like GMP weightages, say. So GMP weightage is also just based on the data, and there are several methods, as I mentioned you, likelihood, log likelihood, Euclidean distance. So if I use a different method, I will get different type of numbers. Okay, so now how sensitive are our results for this GMP weightages? Then recurrence parameters, if I use altogether a different method or a different philosophy, how much these things will change. So we have done some sensitivity, this recurrence parameters also. Like if I change the weights, we have several results. I'm just showing you a typical it's very small thing. So if I take equal weights, what happens? So what we found out was, the GMP weightages, our results, the second decimal is, some regions, you see, the second decimal in Himalayas and other region, they are sensitive only. But some places are there where even the first decimal, you will have a sensitivity. But this doesn't alter the numbers, that drastically, the weightages of the GMPs. Then similarly, so I'm showing for variety of written periods, we got these numbers. And then this is an important thing. If I use Kichko's method, say, what numbers we get. If I use Wichet method, okay, what numbers we get. So here also there are some small differences are there, but not that drastic, or we don't see that much surprises, okay, in terms of the the PGAs at variety of written periods from these two methods. Some small change. There are some places where we get higher values if I use one method. If I use another method, say, we get some slightly the lower value itself. And then, so now in our India, say, these hazard contours, 73 year, 475 year, 2475 year, we can give. But our practicing engineers, they want, they are accustomed for our zones itself. So if I give a variety of these contour maps, it will be very difficult for them to understand. So what the committee felt was, we will go ahead with this zones itself. So what we did was, based on our hazard contours, say, So we divided, the entire country into, you see, the 4 zones like zone A, zone B, zone C, and zone D. So zone A means, the contours wherever the value is less than 0.15 G. So we are doing in zone A. Then zone B means 0.15 to 0.3 G, then 0.3 to 0.6, then greater than 0.6 A. So we club them into zones kind of a thing, because these things are very easy for a practicing engineer, because in our India most of the practicing engineers is so they are diploma or the BTech graduates, you see. So for them it will be very easy to use this the zone maps itself. So this is a zone map based on the 50 percentile hazard map, and this is a zone map, you see, based on the 95 percentile. So if you use 95 percentile, then zone D area will obviously increase. So now the PGA values for all these zones will be like zone A is 0.15 G, then we have 0.3, then 0.6, and maybe some 0.84 G. So these numbers are under discussion or the debate itself. Now we have also done like sensitivities, a lack of instrumental data. See, in India, what happens is some places are widely instrumented, like Koyna region is highly instrumented. So 3 magnitude, 4 magnitudes, very, they report all this instrumental data. Now there are some regions like in Ganga Basin or some places where, instruments are not there. Earthquakes are occurring, the small quakes like 4.4 or 4.6, but they are not getting recorded there. So in hazard analysis, what happens is, wherever the instruments are high, the values are high, but wherever less instrumental data, say, the values are very low. So here also we did some kind of, the sensitivity study. So like if I delete from my catalog, say, all earthquakes, more than 4.5, then what happens in the hazard? If I 5 magnitude, if I delete, what happens in the hazard? So that sensitivity studies also we have done, and we found out that in Bombay, some cities, if the lack of instrumental data, so we'll have the huge deviations at you see the large return periods itself. So this is what I'm just showing, like Amritsar, if there is a lack of instrumental data, say, okay, so like, there are no earthquakes which are magnitude less than 5, so the hazard is 0.061, but if I include the small magnitudes, 0.177, so how these values are very sensitive also. So similarly, we have done sensitivity for the MMAX side also. If I, let us say, if mistakenly, if I don't include one large magnitude earthquake, okay, how much will be the PGA variation? So how much these values are sensitive. So all these things we have done, for in the new report. So now another most important thing what came up in our IS code was this displacement response spectrum. Some of you may be knowing displacement based design, it is becoming popular now. So of course in the code we don't want to incorporate right now, but in maybe the future codes to say. So displacement method in a Eurocode has this displacement response spectrum. So on this side also we have done this work, because we have a high quality data, the CIGN network. So we did some studies like fitting GMPs for the displacement response spectra, and we got even this uniform hazard, displacement response spectra for all the cities in our India also. So this is how the bilinear shape of the displacement response spectrum. So you have this TD where the slope changes from, straight line. This is 2 straight lines. How this slopes, this TD varies in the country. So this is a contour map I'm just showing you here. So how this varies, like in Ganga Basin, say 8 seconds, 6 seconds, we get these type of numbers itself. And then now in India, so the main thing is hazard is one issue. All the hazard maps are valid at B-type rock, that is 760 meter per second. But the most challenging thing in India is this Ganga Basin. So this Ganga Basin is a highly, complicated, geological structure, where you will see amplification not only from the soil amplification, but the basin effects. So they become very, very important. So this VS30 type of amplifications, that doesn't work in Ganga Basin, because the depth of the sediments itself, is something around 6 kilometers, 7 kilometers. Some places, when it comes to shield region, say, it may be, the lower side, but when it comes to Himalayas, we have this huge problem itself. So if you want to attempt this soil amplification, one has to include the basin effects as well as, this nonlinear soil amplification also into our calculations. So in our codal committee also, they felt that VS30 doesn't work for our, the Indo-Ganga basin. So the whole basin has to be modeled, and some numbers have to be, taken up to estimate amplification due to this basin structure itself. not only in Indo-Ganga basin, we have like Cambay basin, Kutch basin. There are several basins are there where you will see these type of basin effects apart from this ordinary one-dimensional, you see the soil amplification. So this also we have started working on this thing. So we have developed, the whole basins in spectral finite element method we have started. So this is one, the finite elements. Okay, so we have modeled the entire Ganga basin itself. So we have done piece by piece. So I'm just showing you one, the cube along this, the Delhi region. You can see the Kedarnath is here and the Mount Kailash is here. So this is a 3D finite element model which we developed to understand this basin effects. And you can see the basin also, it goes like this. So as it goes towards the Himalayas, the depth of sediments, they increase up to, you see, 6 kilometers or 7 kilometers. But when it comes to the shield region, you see the depth decreases. So this basin is a very peculiar basin. So based on all the receiver function analysis and all the other kind of studies, so we have developed a 3D, the shear wave velocity models or depth-wise, the velocity model here, and the top shear wave velocity is around 475 meter per second. So this we have done for this one. So these are the the mesh, the spectral element mesh I am showing here. So these are the calibrated the broadband simulations we did. And we have done this matching frequency, the quality factors, the scattering coefficients, and all those things have been estimated. And we started, and this is also another, the IGP mesh I showed you near the Delhi. So this is near, the Lucknow, Faizabad region in the Kathmandu is here. So to model this Nepal earthquake, so these are the finite element mesh, I'm showing you. So I'm just showing you some sections, and the shear wave velocity also varies inside this basin itself. So all those things by incorporating, so we are able to compute this soil amplification and even the basin effects also, and even the effects of the Himalayan topography, on the ground motion also. So these for the Nepal earthquake, we have validated all these computational models here. So these are Nepal earthquake. It was, as already I mentioned you, it was widely recorded in this Central Indo-Ganga network. So you can see these black ones are the recorded ones, and these are the simulated ones. So the long period waves are getting simulated in our this spectral finite element method itself. So this also I'm showing you from our SpecFM simulations at Kathmandu station, which is very close to the, the epicenter. So here also we are able to reproduce, you see, the displacement forms and other things itself. So now we have even validated for several past earthquakes from PESMOS data, even from CIGN network itself. So there was one 5.4 event in 2011, 4.4 Himalayan events, as well as CIGN events. So we have simulated this broadband, low frequencies from SpecFM, and the high frequencies is from the scattering Green's functions, and we combine them using that matching in the frequency domain. So, and these are the time history simulated and the recorded ones, and these are the Fourier amplitude spectra I'm showing here, and these are the response spectra. So these type of work we have calibrated with all several the past the complete data itself, and we have got very the interesting results, and we have tried to estimate this amplification in the Ganga basin. So this is a typical, we do this residual analysis. So recorded data versus simulated data. So to check whether there is any bias in our simulations for PGV, then PGA, then the spectral acceleration at 0.2 second, then 1 second, then at 10 seconds, So all those studies have been done, and the models have been calibrated by comparing with this recorded data. So then once everything calibration has been done, so we also tried, everybody says that in Himalayas, we have a central seismic gap, and Bilham's papers are there. Many geologists are also, geophysics are also speculating, you see a huge event is due in the central seismic gap of the Himalayas. So we have these hypothetical events. So we have tried to see how much this Ganga basin and the Himalayas, how they will respond if there is going to be such a great earthquake in here, because these studies are very important, not only for the codal purposes like amplification and others, they are very important to compute this economic losses also. So these are the SLIPS model. So we have our own SLIP model, the non-Gaussian SLIP model. We have developed a new model based on the past SLIPs, and that paper is available in Journal of Seismology. So using our non-Gaussian SLIP model, so we simulated several synthetic SLIP fields. So here here, the correlation length, we have used variograms technique here. So the correlation lengths have been taken up based on the magnitude. Then the scaling relations are also, we have our own, we have developed the equations for that. So using, and then we model this as a truncated, the exponential distribution, the slip value. So this is the slip. I'm showing you some, we have generated several slip values to understand, the effect of slip on the ground motion. And at each, so this has been divided into several subplots. So at each subplots, we have, a source time function we have given, and then we have computed the response of all the stations in Ganga Basin as well as in the Himalayas. So this is how this is the Himalayas here. So this is that central seismic gap, the rupture, the plane of the central seismic gap here. And the epicenter also we have varied, in both the directions, along the dip direction as along, you see, the strike direction. So this and these are our stations. Like we have put an array perpendicular to this fault, parallel to this fault. How the amplification, you see, looks like in Himalayas as well as in the IGP itself. So I am just showing you, some time histories like Chamoli, Tehri. So we have a dam at Tehri also. So how these time histories looks like Delhi, then Lucknow, Roorkee, Kashipur, at several stations. We have computed these numbers itself. And then these are the amplifications. Like at bedrock level also, I have a station. On the top of the surface also, I have a station. So the red one is a bedrock station, and the surface is the the amplification which we have got by by including the one-dimensional amplification, and then our the basin effects itself from our model. So you can see, so when the depth is very high, the amplifications are extremely high. But when the depth comes down, so like is it 0.6 kilometer at some places, we will see the amplifications are very less, and the main amplification is found out at the long period part of the spectrum itself. So now similarly, you see, we have done for a Himalayan event. Similarly, we have even done for an earthquake, hypothetical earthquake in IGP also, in the Indo-Ganga basin, that is near the Mahendranagar Dehradun fault, which has a magnitude of the 7.1, and then to see if earthquake occurs in Himalaya, how much will be the amplification. If an earthquake occurs beneath the Himalaya, how much will be the amplification. So our spectral finite element model was run, and here also we have generated some 30 samples of slip distribution using our non-Gaussian slip models. And finally, so these are the amplifications. What we understand is, the amplifications when earthquake occurs beneath the Ganga basin is entirely different when an earthquake occurs in Himalayas. So you will see different type of the amplifications. So some places will have de-amplification also, like if you see at 0.1 kilometer of the depth of the basin. So you can see there is a de-amplification in the the low natural period, but the long periods say we don't see any amplification here. And when the depth of the basin is very high, say like 4.6 kilometers, then you can see a huge amplification we see when an earthquake occurs beneath our Indo-Ganga basin. So now similarly, we have done for the IGP as well as the Ganga basin we have done. Now we have also looked at, you see, this Northeast India, because I was working in Gauhati for IIT Gauhati for 3 years. So at that time, we have developed several models based on stochastic seismological models. We have calibrated, and then we have done some simulations. So now what we have done is, here also we have a basin, that's a Brahmaputra. We have all kinds of topographical features are there. So how much will be the amplification due to this topography, then the basin effects, and then the soil amplification. So we have developed this finite element models, say, to simulate, you see, the ground motion even in northeastern region also. So this we have done a complete 3D shear wave velocity profile we have developed. So there has been many receiver functions. Yesterday I think we had a lecture. So using this receiver function analysis, many geophysicists, they report this one-dimensional the velocity models are there. So based on these models, and then based on the geology of the region, say, so we have interpolated them. We have done this the one-dimensional velocity models we have developed, and we have interpolated them, and we have got into some 3D full 3D velocity models we have done. And finally, this is a shear wave velocity model I'm showing you here at the surface level. So Shillong Plateau, Migir Hills, say, because they have very high shear wave velocities when you compare with Assam Valley, which is a typical basin, then Bengal basin, say. Here also you have a huge basin type of a structure. So I'm showing you the VP variation, VS variation in 3D with the depth itself. So we have developed all these models even for the northeastern India. And then you see we have even validated, like from the geology, there are several sections have been shown. Okay, so how the shear wave velocity, you see the Indo-Burma subduction region. So we have compared with all these type of variations, several sections, and calibrated with geology as well as from the receiver function analysis. And finally, you see we developed this a 3D velocity model. It's a spectral finite element model, you see, for ground motion synthesis in northeastern India. So you can see this is our finite element model. You can see this is a zoomed version I'm showing you here. This is a finite element mesh, and you can see we have even modeled all the topography of the Shillong region, then Mikiri Hills, then Indo-Burmese Arc, as well as the Himalayan region, and we have assumed this 3D variation of material properties, and then we started simulating, you see, for all these earthquakes. So this is the details of the meshes. So how do we have digitized, how we have done our measure, and then the solver itself. So it is something 757.91 million degrees of freedom. So to run these type of meshes, you require a supercomputer. So our IIT Madras, you see, we have a supercomputer maintained by HP. So where we implemented all our that Ganga basin I showed you previously. So all those things have been implemented, and then we started simulating for the major earthquakes itself. So I'm just showing you some calibrations here. So we have not filtered the data. I'm just showing the recorded and the simulated time histories, say how they look like. So we are still calibrating our model itself. So like this, we have done for several all the past earthquakes. Several earthquakes are there in Northeast. So we are trying to calibrate our models with this one. Now, and I'm showing you only the low frequency simulations, but we can do the high frequency simulations, and then we can combine them in a broadband, and we will compare with the data itself. So anyway, so with this, I will close my lecture so that we can have a discussion. So I just showed you, the proposal for a broad zoning of the country. So as already I mentioned you, the new seismic zone maps, which may come up in next 6 months or maybe 1 year. So several reviews have been done, like 4 or 5 times it has been reviewed. The methodology has been reviewed. And as already I mentioned you, this methodology has been drafted by the committee itself. And the report is also available online. The BIS has circulated to many groups for their comments and others, and whatever comments we are taking them, and then we are doing the sensitivity study also. So finally we will be having the hazard maps also, but as already I mentioned you, the practicing engineers of our country say so they want to still go ahead with this zones itself, like 4 zones or 5 zones kind of a thing, and then give this value, because there are some practical difficulties. Like if in a city, say if I give one street one value, another street another value, we will have a lot of the problems. So for that, this zone map has been prepared. So 4 zones, but these 4 zones have been estimated from the probabilistic seismic hazard contours itself. So as already I showed you, we have done based on fault based, circular smoothing, then elliptical smoothing. But everybody prefers elliptical smoothing, which combines the fault as well as this circular smoothing. So these 4 zones I have shown you, and these are the Z values. Like zone A will have PGA 0.15 G, then zone B the PGA may be something around 0.15 to 0.3. So this we are debating actually, okay, how much will be the values. And then because if I change the zones, the PGA values, automatically other codes also have to change. Our IS 456, the concrete code, then IS 800, the steel code. So many, because this map is going to affect all other codes for RCC and all other structures. So there are another committees are looking at, while if I take these values, how much will be the reduction, or how to select the R factor, how to select the I factor when I take these type of values, and then how to do. So those things are currently going on. So based on all those studies, maybe these Z values will be fixed up. But our Z value, the highest Z value will be something around this 0.8 G. That is what the committee also felt it is fine. Now, right now we are having only 0.36 G, which underestimates the hazard, at in Himalayas as well as in the Northeast India. But if I increase the PGA to very high value, how it is going to affect the structure, or where R factor should be. So that is under, people are working on, the Codal people are working on those issues itself. Then whatever zone map I showed you, that zone map is valid for B-type site, that is 760 meters, BC boundary essentially, 760 meter per second. But how to compute the soil amplification? Right now in the code, we give type 1, type 2, type 3 type of a soil. But and some groups prefer that VS30. Based on the VS30, you can classify and you can use it also. But VS30 doesn't work in our country, essentially in the Ganga basin, the river mouths, where depth of sediments are very high. 6 kilometer. In Calcutta, that basin you may have 10 kilometer the sediment depth. So VS30 is very poor. So what the committee says is, we should have a sediment depth versus amplification. So if I know N value, if I do, and if I know how much is the depth of sediments at my site, so we may give some type of a charts. Okay, so where depending on your sediment depths, you can choose your amplification also. So this work is under progress right now. So I will just close my thing with acknowledgements. As already I mentioned so this is a committee, not although I have done all the work, but all the inputs have come from these people like CVR. He is a chairman of CED 39, that is the criteria for earthquake resistant design. Then we have NGRI, Dr. Srinagesh and others also from NGRI. Then Ravi Sinha from Bombay. Then ID Gupta, he is an independent researcher and he does a lot of work in hazard analysis. Then DK Paul, who is a chairman of the MAPS subcommittee. Then we have Nuclear Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, Roshan, and then Professor Iyengar, who is my own supervisor, and then member secretary is there. And of course, NDMA has given our financial support. So thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, sir, for your nice presentation.
Yes.
Audience, if there is any question.
Yes. In India, you have quite a lot of nuclear power plants installed. And
Yes.
for each of these NPP, specific engineering investigations have been done to assess the hazard level.
Okay.
Have you ever compared your map with these specific works? Are you getting more conservative values or compatible or less? Because you have made your calculations for the very lot of return periods, so you can have a good basis for comparison. Have you ever done that?
Yes. So as already I mentioned, right, our building code committee has people from nuclear, Atomic Energy Regulatory Board. So they have compared with their nuclear things like Bombay, Kakrapara, many nuclear reactors. I think you showed right on that day today in your lecture. So that they have been compared, and our values are on the slightly on the higher side. To be honest.
Even higher than for the NPP?
Yes.
And Joseph, another question. Your maps looks very mosaic. For 32 or 33 just source zones, this seems too much detailed. Is the really data supports this so mosaic output finally? Or this is just a matter of drawing isolines?
Followed. No, I agree with you. See, like as already I mentioned you, right, we have that 33 that because the data, if I decrease the size of the zones, the seismicity data will be very less. So AB values are highly sensitive, they fluctuate like anything. So B value, like Kijiko's method, you give some starting value, you will get something else. And if I change the data, something else will come. So based on the sensitivity, we adopted these broad zones. But as already I mentioned, we are doing background seismicity models also, where you don't require zones, just you divide it to grids and circular smoothing and elliptical smoothing. So we have from all the approaches.
Thank
And
you.
our building committee says is we should go ahead with the elliptical smoothing, which is because as a practicing engineer wants always less values only. So practicing engineers likes fault-based approaches, not based on this one, because they will give very less value, so they will be very happy to design. But circular smoothing, if you do, you will get very high values. Science is a different thing, but practicing engineers say, no, you follow, right? It's difficult for us. So somewhere between this and this, we have elliptical smoothing. So it was agreed, like elliptical smoothing may be fine.
Thank you.
Sir, there is another question from the participants. Is it seen on your screen?
Yes. What kind of nucleation method is used to replicate earthquake in your Spectrum 3D model? So we model the earthquake as a displacement discontinuity, that slip model, which I have showed you. So that is based on this random field modeling. So because we have done for a future earthquakes, the slip models are not known. So we model it as a Gaussian, non-Gaussian random field. It is a truncated exponential distribution, and it has its own power spectral density, which has a correlation lens, so which is scaled with the magnitude. So we have used those models, to find out this in our SpecFem and then to get this type of result. Sir, what is meant by background seismicity? So background seismicity means, you don't know the faults. There are many earthquakes in India. If I project on the fault map, you will see there are no faults there, but epicenters are there. So how do I handle these type of events itself? So what we try to do is, we remove all the faults, we divide the region into grids like 0.1 degree by 0.1 degree kind of a thing. So we count how many number of earthquakes are there in each that small boxes, and then we do this smoothing by that expression, assuming a correlation distance, and we have uncertainty in the location of the source. So that is what we do as a background seismicity. The background seismicity means faults are not there, only you would go just based on the earthquake catalogs itself. In the analysis of earthquake hazard, if you use artificial acceleration maps, does it give an acceptable result or not? I did not understand. Artificial means artificial acceleration means. See, artificial acceleration. It means from the hazard analysis, whatever we are doing, because they are all from GMPs, So they have from the strong motion data they have been estimated. So as already, of course, does it give an acceptable result? I will just give answer in a different fashion. See, generally our design philosophy is, you can design for whatever value you like, but you should know your risk level. That is the most important thing. When I say 2,500 year return period, so the risk level is 2% in 50 years. So you cover the risk with insurance. Whatever value you take, there will be definitely some uncertainty. So that uncertainty you have to cover with insurance. That is what the building code, the philosophy is. Next one, could you please shed some light on whether period of completeness is strictly required to be done for each seismic zone for carrying out region-wise seismic hazard study? Yes, you have to do, it's a mandatory. See, if you do for the overall, you will get some result. If you do for the small regions, you will get some other result. But you have to report all the uncertainties, See how things are changing, you see. That uncertainty also may be included as in our logic tree. But yes, you have to do for each seismic source zone also. Yes, you have to do it.
Thank you, sir. Now, after completion of each session, from our organizing committee, our student members, they are organizing one quiz. So for that, I am handing over to Pooja. Pooja, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for chairing the session. Sir, I request you to take up one question based on your lecture and give us to our participants so that they can drop their answers in the comment section.
Sir, you can write sir, you can write also in the comment section, sir.
No, my question is very simple, ask them to define return period, that's all.
Okay.
That is very important for engineer, as far as I'm concerned.
So I give 1 minute time to our participants so that they can drop their answers in the comment section.
And maybe another question if you want, in international codes, what is the return period we use in design? In Indian code also, MCE they say, right? MCE earthquake, this one. So what is the return period for that? MCE, that's all.
So can you repeat the question once again, the second question?
So in our Indian code, IS 1893, we have a term known as MCE, okay? MCE. So MCE means, it corresponds to which return period? The first question is you define return period. The second question is in our Indian building code, MCA corresponds to which return period? That's all.
Okay. So let us give 1